Now we are going to add fillets and what is called a shell to our soap dish. So I'm going to position my soap dish. You can see we have our outside shape, we have our the angle, the draft angle on the outside. We have our draft angle on the inside. We have our soap dish cavity exactly 2.5 by 1.5 by 0.65 deep. And now we're going to add what are called fillets, and fillets are round edges. So you see out here I have a straight edge. The edge where the side of the soap dish meets the top is perfectly straight. If you look around, you're on a computer now. If you look at your computer, you'll see that most of the edges of the plastic are round. There's a little teeny round. There are no exactly sharp flat edges. Well, maybe there's a couple, but for the most part, the parts are rounded. So plastic parts usually have fillets. It helps it come out of the mold and it makes it look better. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the ribbon and where the Modify tab, and we're going to find Fillet. Now, when we select that, you can see that my dialog box here is open. It may be closed. So if it's closed like this, you just click on the arrow underneath of the bar there and it opens it up. You don't really need this because we also have these boxes here that help us to know exactly what we're going to do. So you can see that by default, the first thing that it wants us to do is to select the edges that are going to be filleted, that are going to be round. So I'm going to select this outside edge. Now, you may have a lot more edges than this. You may have crazy shapes. I mean, you might have hair from some character, if you have a guitar shape or a fish, or who knows. There are so many, a Pokemon. There are all kinds of things that people come up with for these soap dishes. You might have a lot of sharp edges. You might have a lot more area. I just have one edge that I'm going to fillet. Okay, we are not going to fillet the bottom edge, and we're not going to fillet the top edge of the soap dish. We're not going to fillet this. Okay, so this is the only one. So you select all the lines that you want to fillet, all the edges, and then in here is the radius of the fillet. And we want the radius to be 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch. And you can see it's giving us a preview of what that fillet looks like. And then when we're finished, we select the check mark. And you can see that it puts a very nice round edge on that soap dish. If you cannot make the fillet, sometimes you have a sharp edge and you put in a 1/8 of an inch fillet and it's too big. You can go down to 0.005. You can go down to 0.002 if you want to. And at the end, if there are some lines that you can't fillet, don't worry about it. But most of your lines should be able to fillet. If 1/8 of an inch is too big, then go ahead and just fillet it to a smaller size. And keep trying to plug values in that work. So if you do 1/8 of an inch, it doesn't work, try 0.1. If that doesn't work, try 0.05. And keep going down in smaller increments until you find a fillet that works. All right, the requirement on the bottom is that the inside of the soap cavity has a fillet of 0.375. So we're going to go ahead and select the fillet again. And now we're going to select the bottom edges. And I'll rotate around so I can see it. The bottom edges. And we're going to change this to 0.375. That's a little bit bigger fillet. And you can see that it gives us a nice round area for the soap to go in. Okay, so we've got our inside fillet. We have our, actually I think I changed that to 0.25. It looks a little bit too big. Let's change that. Now, I made a mistake. Well, it wasn't really a mistake, but I don't want the fillet to be that big. Do you remember how to make changes? We could just go back. We could use the back button, and that fillet would disappear. But sometimes you go 5, 6, 7 steps ahead, and if you go back, you'll undo everything else that you did. So a better way to make edits is to come over here to the browser bar and find that fillet. Well, there's my first fillet, which was the fillet around the outside edge. Here's the fillet for the soap dish. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to edit the feature. Now, we've seen Edit Sketch before, haven't we? Edit Sketch we can go back in and change the sketch dimension. Edit feature lets you go in and change the three-dimensional feature, which would be an extrude or a fillet. So we select edit feature, and now I'm able to come back over here and change the value of that fillet to 0.25. That's more like it. All right, and that gives us a larger area on the bottom to do what we're going to do later, which is called a sweep. Okay, so once we have our fillets, excuse me, now we're going to hollow this out. This is a big solid chunk of plastic. It's a big waste of plastic. We don't need this much plastic. And if you look around at plastic parts, you'll see that oftentimes they have they're hollow on the inside. They're scooped out like a cell phone, or if you look at a cell phone, it's like in two parts. If you were to take those two parts apart, it wouldn't be a solid piece of plastic. It would be hollowed out inside. That's called a shell. So rotate your part so you can see the bottom. Come up to where it says shell, which is right here in the modify tab. So it's right next to fillet. We're going to select shell. You can kind of look and see at the picture there. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing a face and hollowing it out so that the plastic part has a certain thickness. So here is our box, our shell commands, and all we need to do is select the bottom. So there's the bottom of the soap dish, and we're going to type in a number. We're going to use 0.1. 0.1 wall thickness. Now, again, sometimes this doesn't work because you're for one reason or another, and you can go down. There's a specification on the design brief that says how far you can go down to, but try to use 0.1 if you can, and for most it should work for you. If it doesn't, you can always go back and change the size of that to a smaller size. And there we have our soap dish hollowed out. Okay, there you go. So that's how you apply fillets and the shell to your soap dish.